Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be explaining what the subdivision surface modifier is and what it has to offer to us. So let's begin. I'll be using this cube that we have by default. Go to the modifiers tab and add modifier and subdivision surface. Right away, you'll notice that the cube has suddenly turned into spherical form. This is because right now the subdivision surface modifier has been applied using the Catmull-Clark type of subdivision surface. So the Catmull-Clark type of subdivision surface gives you a mesh more topology while it curves the surface of the mesh around that vertex, around those vertices. So right now you see that it's somewhat a spherical form, but if I increase the viewport subdivisions, you'll see that it becomes moreover like a sphere. And if I further go and shade it smooth, it is a sphere, although it is made from a cube. If I turn the modifier off, you see that it's a cube. Now we have two parameters under the subdivision surface modifier. Um, I'll just shade the object flat. So right here we have the subdivisions parameter and the options. So the subdivisions is very easy to understand. So more subdivisions gives you a mesh more topology or increases the vertex count. So you have the render subdivisions. So this will define how many subdivisions or how many vertices your object will have. The number of subdivisions is not the absolute value, and it's just this number that you use to increase the vertex count. So increasing it in the render will not change in the viewport. So this right here is the viewport. So the viewport subdivision is what decides how much subdivision you have for your object in the viewport. So if you increase the viewport subdivisions and you get a sphere here, but when you render it and you forget to increase the render subdivisions, you will just see the same as viewport subdivisions of 2. So this will be your mesh and not this if you leave this render at 2. The quality is brings subtle difference. It's not very evident in these kind of meshes, but when you have much more detailed mesh, it will be very useful because you'll need much more quality, that is more detailed, so your mesh must be more dense. Now the options right here, we have sharp and keep corners. We'll just leave these two options as default. Now we have optimal display. Now what optimal display does is it makes it so that only the subdivisions that will be visible to us uh, um, or makes the subdivision that will be more evident to us applicable to this solid. So if I go into wireframe or X-ray mode by pressing Shift Z, you'll see that right now it's just a very simple wireframe you see. But if I turn off, if I turn off optimal display, it becomes a very dense mesh. So you can have optimal display turned on most of the times because it just eases uh, the stress on your computer. Now use creases is another parameter which you can use to manipulate your model with the subdivision surface. So go to edit mode, and right now I'll just come out of wireframe first and go to edge selection, select any edge and shift E. That's the shortcut for crease edge or edge crease, and you'll see that when I move the mouse with the after pressing shift E, the mesh is getting warped around that region, so it's getting pulled towards it or away from it. This works only if you have the use creases enabled. So if I turn this off and shift E and move my mouse around, it's not going to work, it's not going to do anything. And that pretty much sums it up for the subdivision surface modifier. Apart from that, we have the simple uh, type of subdivision surface, but this is moreover to increase its mesh topology instead of just curving it. So here if I go to wireframe, you'll see that there's no difference, but once I apply the modifier, you'll see that the mesh suddenly becomes much more dense than it was before. So the reason you would want to use the simple subdivision modifier is because you want to preserve the shape of your object but at the same time you want to give more detail or add more mesh topology, that's when you'll use the uh, simple subdivision surface modifier. um, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you learned something new, if you enjoyed, please do comment, like, share and subscribe.